history, even though technically, and Constantinople is bridging Europe and Asia. But he brings up this so-called debate between Manuel II, who was considered to be a very brilliant Byzantine emperor, and this Persian scholar that we don't know who it is. So, in this seventh conversation, in a newly edited book by Professor Khoury, the emperor touches on the theme of the Holy War. The emperor must have known that Surah 2, verse 256, reads, "There is no compulsion in religion." According to the experts, this is one of the surahs of the early period. Which experts? It's not a surah of the early period. Baqarah is one of the later surahs. Now, what he says is, Muhammad was still powerless and under threat. But naturally, the emperor also knew the instructions developed later and recorded in the Quran concerning holy war. So this, what he's indicating here is, when he was powerless and weakness, he said there's no coercion in religion. Well, that's very interesting, because there's no meaning to that verse if you're powerless. How do you coerce somebody if you don't have power? So why would he even say that? There's no coercion in the religion if he's powerless to coerce anybody into the religion. I mean, that verse is applied verse. There are scholars that say that the verse is abrogated. There are scholars that say that, and I don't deny that, because I like calling it fair. But they have been rejected by the overwhelming body of Muslims throughout the centuries of Islam. So there are some scholars that that verse was abrogated by what's called Ayatul Sayf. But all of the ulama are in agreement. And what they mean is, if you're in state power, you can force people to pay zakat if they're not paying zakat. But nobody's ever said you can force a non-Muslim to embrace Islam. In the history of Islam, nobody has ever abrogated the verse from that meaning in the history of Islam. But what they mean is you can use coercive power in a state to implement the religion, but not to force anybody to follow the religion. Nobody has ever said that in the history of Islam. So I don't know which experts he's relying on to give him that information, because it's not correct information. So then he goes on to say that this Manuel says, quote, "Show me just what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam," he didn't say that, but I'm saying that, "brought that was new, and there you will find things only evil and inhuman, such as his command to spread by the sword the faith he preached." You show me where the Prophet Muhammad said, spread this faith by the sword. Show me one verse, one hadith. Just show it to me. Where he said, force people to say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. There's no verse that says that. And the one hadith in which the Prophet said, Umirtu an uqatil an-nas hatta an yashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. That verse is about specifically the people in Mecca, that the Nas there are his own people, the Quraysh, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him permission to fight them because they persecuted him, and they had a choice either to leave or to accept Islam. That was their choice. So that exists. And like I said, I'm not going to waffle. I don't want to, there's a lot of Muslim apologists out there that will pretend like there aren't these things in, and they get up and have their interfaith dialogues and things like that, and don't talk about these. No, these things are there. But they're there in Christianity. If you want, I've read St. Thomas Aquinas. You read St. Thomas Aquinas about what he says to do to people that aren't following the proper faith. Because it's a capital offense, according to St. Thomas Aquinas. And he is still the greatest authority. In fact, this talk is largely based on the work of St. Thomas Aquinas. So, and I can give you quotes from St. Thomas Aquinas to show that. But my point is that he goes on to quote this, and then one of the major problems for me is that he doesn't say this is a medieval, yes, he says I quote, but he doesn't say anything about the quote. He just leaves it like it is. Well, I have a problem with that. Tell us what you think about that quote. I mean, he's later said this, that, or the other. But I want to look at who Manuel II is, right? Because I was originally Orthodox, so and I was a serious Orthodox. I was altar boy in an Orthodox church. I went to Greece when I was young to be in an Orthodox summer camp to learn about the religion, visited all the sites. But Constantinople, Istanbul, Constantinople is the center of Orthodox Christianity, the new Rome. And I just recently, for the first time, visited the Hagia Sophia, which is an amazing mosque, church. I mean, it's just stunning. Really overwhelmed me to go in there. But when the Muslims conquered Constantinople, it's important to remember they ruled Greece for over 400 years. The Parthenon was used as a mosque for 70 years in Greece. The Greeks are still Orthodox. Turks didn't force them to become. They're still an Orthodox Christian community. The Patriarch is still there in Istanbul. Where are the Sicilian Muslims? The Muslims were in Sicily for 300 years. Where are those Muslims? Where are the Spanish Muslims that were in Granada in 1492 when Granada was lost to the Catholic Church? Where are all the historical Muslim communities? They don't exist. So when you say coercion and forcing it, and then you're going to quote from somebody from the Middle Ages to buttress your opinion, I don't know, that trouble. But let's look at Manuel II. Manuel II, from 1400 to 1403, the Byzantine emperor himself was touring the power centers of the West in hopes of drumming up money and support against the Muslims. So why is he quoting from somebody who's noted historically to be a man who toured the European nations to drum up support against the Muslims? In fact, he arrived in Venice in April 1400, shortly after Kristologi had left Florence. From there, Manuel II went to Padua, Vicenza, Pavia, Milan, where he and Kristologi celebrated their reunion. He goes on, he went to Paris. He spent a year with King Charles VI. He went to London. He was a big hit in the English capital, where King Henry IV and his subjects gave him a magnificent reception, and on and on. So why is it that he's quoting from somebody who went around Europe to drum up support against the Muslims out of fear of the Muslims? I mean, that to me, that's significant. That's something to think about. And he ends the quote with Manuel. He ends his whole talk with Manuel II. So why is he bringing up this historical character who was the last serious Byzantine emperor that was trying to stop the encroachment of the Muslims on what was left of the Byzantine emperor? Now the Arabs have a saying, "Ar-Rum in lam yaghzu, in lam yughza yaghzu." The Byzantines are such, if you don't fight them, they fight you. So that during that period, that was just what was going on. That's the pre-modern world. And we have to accept that. That is the pre-modern world. That's the way pre-modern peoples are. They were fighting over territories. They were very different from the modern people who don't fight over territories and natural resources and things like that. I mean, we're enlightened, civilized people. We don't resort to violence as a way of achieving our aims and objectives, right? So that's a distinct difference between the two. But anyway, that was the pre-modern world. So it's very important for people to think about what this means. Now, the irony of ironies to me in the whole talk is what he's saying is faith and reason are compatible. Where did that idea come from? The fact that he quotes and tells us that Islam gave nothing good. He quotes a man who says Islam brought nothing good, only evil. Well, that idea of the compatibility of faith and reason comes from, in the Catholic Church, from St. Thomas Aquinas. Because before St. Thomas Aquinas, Tertullian and others, the theologians of the Catholic Church, did not have a reconciliation of faith and reason. You believed because it was absurd. It was a supra-rational reality. What St. Thomas Aquinas did was he reconciled between faith and reason. Well, where did St. Thomas Aquinas get that idea of reconciling between faith and reason? Well, that's very interesting. If you look at the Cambridge Companion to Aquinas, on the chapter Aquinas and Islamic and Jewish Thinkers, they give you a very accurate historical presentation of the fact that St. Thomas Aquinas was heavily influenced by Ibn Rushd, Averroes, the Muslim philosopher.